I will say, as much as it bothers me that Kamala Harris is doing a terrible job, and as much as it really bothers me that she lies about the fact that she has all the connection in the world to these policies. You watch, again, I wouldn't recommend you do it because you lose about 20 IQ points. But if you watch a Kamala Harris rally, she will stand up before the crowd and say, on day one, we're going to tackle the affordability crisis affecting American citizens. On day one, we're going to make housing more affordable, and we're going to secure the southern border. And of course, anybody with an ounce of common sense is saying, day one was 1,400 days ago, Kamala. What have you been doing the whole time? So she runs away as far away from Joe Biden as she possibly could. In fact, I think that if an interviewer asked her, have you ever seen Joe Biden, she might answer no, because even though she is the sitting vice president, she tries to pretend that she has nothing to do with the policies of the last 4 years, even though, of course, there are clips of her on camera bragging about those policies, saying that she was the last person in the room when decisions were made, casting the tie-breaking vote on these policies, and now Kamala Harris, she wants to wash her hands and say, I had nothing to do with it. Well, luckily for us, luckily for the Trump campaign, while Kamala Harris tries to run away from the Biden administration's policies because they're so unpopular, she also occasionally will open her mouth and tell the truth. And I don't know if you've seen her interview that she did with The View a couple of weeks ago. I'm glad that most of you didn't see it. Look, I will never complain about running for vice president except about this one topic. I watch Kamala Harris on The View so that you don't have to. That is the sacrifice that I take upon myself, my friends. This is a life of service I've asked for. It's not always easy. Sometimes I got to watch Kamala Harris on The View. But look, the media says she only does softball interviews. Even the friendly media says she only does softball interviews. I think she's done one genuinely tough interview. And I know we've got a lot of baseball fans in the great state of Wisconsin. And the problem with a softball interview is that you still got to be able to hit a softball. And I don't know that Kamala Harris could hit a T-ball based on the interviews that she's given, because they asked her, what would you have done differently than Joe Biden? And remember, the whole narrative of her campaign is that she's got nothing to do with Joe Biden. And she says, in a moment of apparent honesty, nothing comes to mind. Now, I said this last night, this could very well be the slogan of the Kamala Harris campaign. Nothing comes to mind. But in a moment of rare honesty, she revealed the lie at the heart of her entire campaign. Because if you're frustrated with grocery prices, and you have every right to be, if you're frustrated with the open border, if you're frustrated with the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, if you're frustrated with the fact that our schools too often indoctrinate our children instead of educating our children, if you're frustrated that you paid a lot of taxes, but you don't actually get a whole lot of good public services from those taxes that you pay, if you're frustrated with the condition of our great country, you have every right to say to Kamala Harris, we don't want you anymore. We want change. We want Donald J. Trump back in the White House. Now, I will say another moment of bipartisanship here, that I do feel sometimes bad for Governor Tim Walz, because I get to go around and defend Donald Trump's record, and he has to defend Kamala Harris's record. I mean, that is a tough job. But think about this. When I go around talking about Donald Trump's record, we don't try to hide from it. We don't try to pretend that it was somebody else's record. We're proud of Donald Trump's record because Donald Trump delivered peace and prosperity for the American people. It's very simple. Now, you can go on Donald Trump's website, donaldjtrump.com. You can see the issue papers and the policy positions. I'm happy to talk about the work we've been doing on the transition team to make sure that your government is ready to go on day one to implement the changes that are going to deliver peace and prosperity. But it's not just plans and promises, because I don't know about you, and I know my colleague from Wisconsin agrees with me. I sometimes get sick of career politicians and bureaucrats talking about their plans and promises, it's nice to have a guy to vote for who doesn't just have plans and promises, but actually has a record. And that record is that he fought back against the Chinese and other theft of our manufacturing base. I know in Wisconsin we care a lot about our proud tradition of American manufacturing and American craftsmanship. Donald Trump, for the first time in 40 years, said no more theft of the American middle class, no more theft of our industrial base, and that was a very, very big and successful thing. Now, of course, while he did that, inflation was at 1.5%, the lowest that it had been in 40 years, and take-home pay was rising faster than it had in a generation. That was the Donald J. Trump record. We also had a secure southern border. We had everything, and look, nothing's ever going to be perfect, but we had the most successful 4 years of governance that we have had in my 40 years of life, and I'd like to get back to it. I'd like to get back to common sense. I'd like to get back to peace. And I'd really like to get back to American citizens being able to afford to build a good life in this country that all of us love. But we're not going to get there unless we make Donald J. Trump the next president of the United States. So let's do everything that we can. Let's vote early. Let's vote by mail. Let's do what we have to do to get Donald J. Trump over the finish line, because when Donald J. Trump wins, more importantly, the American people, their checkbooks, their wealth, and their prosperity are going to win, and that's what we're all fighting for.